to the Joe Parry Show. I'd like to thank Anthony Lamantia to the show. Good evening, Anthony. Welcome to the Joe Parry Show. Thank you very much for being with us on our third episode here at Cigar Castle in Temple Terrace, Florida.
Thank you for having me, Joe.
All right. Now, this is a place of business and pleasure for you because you actually work here, don't you?
That's correct, Joe. I've been at the castle now for about a year and a half. I came to the castle with some body of knowledge about cigars, but I've really learned a lot on the job, being in and around them, speaking with some of the sales reps that come in from the manufacturer.
Okay, great. Now we have some cigars to smoke as well as feature tonight. We're going to show you how to properly cut and light a cigar. There are three different methods: punch cut, V-cut, and straight cut. We're going to punch cut and then V-cut a cigar. And we're going to straight cut yours. We're both going to be smoking a cigar tonight. And then we're in for a treat because you're actually going to exhibit your signature way to properly light a cigar for a guest and then how to light it for yourself. Thank you.
That's right, Joe. I'm going to go through all three cuts that we offer here at the Cigar Castle, as well as how I light a cigar on the behalf of a customer and how I do it when it's my own personal cigar. Distinctly different methods, but the results hopefully would be the same.
Okay. The cigar we're going to actually be smoking tonight is the Oscar Habano. Tell us why you thought this would be an appropriate cigar for the show.
Well, I picked the Oscar Habano because it's a recent release, and it happens to be the best Habano that I've ever smoked, and I've smoked quite a few.
Now, what exactly is a Habano?
Habano is a strain of tobacco, and in this case it's the wrapper on the cigar. So the cigar wrapper, if I may, Joe,
right,
is going to be the outer part of the cigar. And the cigar's construction is in three parts. You have the interior, which is the filler. There is a binder that holds that filler steady, and then a wrapper, which is added for flavor and for beautification on the exterior of the cigar.
All right, well, we're going to be smoking the Oscar Habano. Let's go ahead and cut and light these. And why don't you show us how to punch and then V-cut one, and then I'll smoke that, and then can straight cut one for yourself.
Okay. All right, Joe, so
kind of hold that up for the camera a little bit.
Okay, I'm just going to bring an ashtray onto my lap here so you'd be able to see at home. Okay, so we're going to start with the punch. And anytime you cut a cigar, in my experience, it's always best to go slow and just really feel the cigar, feel the blade against the cigar. Just let the blade do the work nice and slow. If we press too hard, we risk cracking the shoulder. So we go nice and easy and just cut what we have to. As you can see right there, we have a nice clean port with which we can smoke through. Now, that would be good enough to smoke this cigar as a punched cigar. But Joe would like me to demonstrate a V-cut, so since this is already punched, we can go ahead and V-cut this as well. And we're just going to convert that punch into a V. And a V is just basically simply a slit across the head of the cigar.
Alright, and I'm going to go ahead and smoke that V-cut, so why don't you show us how you would light it for one of your customers here at Cigar Castle.
Okay, well, the most important thing when you're lighting a cigar is to keep the temperature down, which sounds kind of funny because we're lighting the cigar on fire. But we don't want to scorch the sugars that are in the tobacco. It'll lend an acrid taste to the cigar, and as you inhale, you'll see a lot of people light a flame and puff away. They're inhaling butane through the cigar, they're scorching the tobacco, they're bringing these acrid flavors through the filler, and those flavors are actually adhering themselves on the way in through the cigar to the filler, and really changing the cigar for the life of the smoke. So what I do on behalf of our clients here at the castle is I'll, on the first pass, go across the foot of the cigar, and it's called toasting the foot, or toasting the cigar, or blackening the foot. I'm really not trying to light the cigar there, I'm just simply darkening it, getting it ready to light, bringing the temperature of the cigar up slowly, which is the important part. Now, to properly light a cigar, Joe, it ought to take a minute to a minute and a half. There is no reason to rush this part of the process. It's so important to how the cigar is going to behave and taste for the life of the smoke. We're looking for a nice, straight, even burn right from the get-go. Now, as you can see here, we've got some amount of smoke going, but we still have most of the cigar is dark. See this orange that's developing? I don't know if you can see that at home, but this orange with the white ash is really what we're looking for in the end. And the reason why I'm waving the cigar around in this fashion, Joe, is to bring, I'm rushing oxygen across the foot of this cigar. I'm expanding those embers slowly at a lower temperature. Like we discussed, we don't want to scorch the tobacco, we don't want that acrid bitter flavor, we want it to be sweet and delicious the way the blender intended. So,
and the reason I say that it's your signature way of doing it is because I don't see a lot of other guys doing it, but you always seem to get it right.
Well, thank you, Joe. And one of the things I wanted to do when I first started working here at the Castle is to bring a service that really I didn't experience in any of the other cigar shops that I was going into, and I was hoping to differentiate the Castle in that way. Now, I watched some YouTube videos and I found one of Ernesto Perez Carrillo. And I watched him light the cigar for himself, and that's the way I'm going to light it for myself here tonight for you when I personally light my cigar. I came up with this method because I didn't want to blow on the customer's cigar, right?
Yeah.
So,
makes sense.
To not do that, I instead rush the oxygen across the face of it in this fashion instead. I think it's more polite if nothing else, right? And this cigar is ready to be smoked now, as you can see at home. I'm just going to give it one for good measure, and one of the things I like to do before I hand the cigar back to the customer is get my fingers right up there, an eighth of an inch to the burn line, and if it's too hot to hold, it's too hot to smoke. So I like to keep the temperature down. I do this while I'm smoking the cigar as well to make sure it's not heating up too much on me. If it is, I'll put it down anywhere from 10 to 30 seconds, whatever it's going to take to bring that temperature back down and then resume smoking the cigar. So I always like to make sure I don't see any orange across the face or across the foot or any of that extra heat that I would feel on my fingers an eighth of an inch from the burn line, and then I hand it to the customer. I like to watch them take their first draw so I can look at the tip of the cigar here, and you can see that's well lit. Joe's got that thing going really well.
I appreciate it. All right, now you're going to straight cut that and show us how to light it for yourself.
Well, I'm going to straight cut this with a palm cutter that I borrowed from Rick Ramone, who also works here at the Cigar Castle on nights that I don't. I'm here every Thursday, Friday, and Saturday night from 6 until close. Rick is here on the other nights. So this is his Holy Cross 92 when he graduated, and I believe it's got his initials on there as well. So these cutters are made by Zycar, and you can have them custom made like that as well. I think his brother had given it to him as a gift. So I'm in here. It's double blade. What I like to do when I do a straight cut is I get in on the head of the cigar here, right into the face, and I don't want to cut too much off. Now you can see the way I did that. I got this perfect port here now to smoke through. I like to personally just rough up when it's my own cigar. I'll use a skewer if I'm at the counter with a customer to kind of pick at it a little bit, just to make sure that those fillers are open and the smoke can travel through the tunnels in the filler tobacco. So this is looking really good, and now I'm going to go ahead and light this. Same practice, Joe, only without all the waving. Okay. Instead now, just the way I watched Ernesto do it in that video, and Ernesto Perez Carrillo is considered by everyone in the industry to be the god of cigar blending and rolling. He's really like the patriarch of the cigar industry. Looked up to. So on the first go around, I just simply blacken that foot, as you can see here. Right. I'm going to go in again, and now on the second go around, I'm going to just try to catch that by blowing on the cigar. And you can see here less than 10%, because it's basically the same practice as we just did on your cigar, only I get to see how the foot of the cigar is reacting to the flame when I'm blowing on it, trying to catch those embers. You can see here I'm only about 20% lit, but there's no hurry. You know, a cigar is used for what? It's used for relaxation, enjoyment, hanging out with friends, socializing. And now
It's always nice after a long day at work, that's for sure.
Absolutely. And here we are. It looks like I got that good glow going. Okay now. So, just as I did earlier with Joe, I go ahead, nice and cool. I don't see any orange in the foot. Now, I'll face Joe. If you're with a friend, it's good to always let them just see how it's burning, and if they have any recommendation, if perhaps it needs a touch-up in a certain corner, and Joe can point that out to me and I can go back to it. But I don't think that's going to be necessary in this case.
Looks pretty good. It's pretty good, Anthony.
And I'm going to do that for the camera as well, Joe.
All right.
And we're smoking an Ecuadorian Habano. And that refers to the wrapper. There are other tobaccos in there as well. It's Honduran.
All right.
And just initially, I have some spice.
Okay.
I don't know if you got any of that
Yeah.
spice when you first started smoking the cigar.
It's a good flavor to it. A little spicy, I would say. Medium body. Maybe a little medium to full. I'm used to more of a mild to medium cigar myself, so this one is a little fuller for me, but definitely a good taste.
And Joe brings up a very good point there. So it's all relative to the smoker's experience and what they're used to smoking, right? So Joe finds this a medium to a medium full, whereas I would describe it for myself very much a medium, and no more than that. So that's an interesting point, Joe. You know, somebody else might find this to be like a real full, strong cigar because they just don't smoke that often, and when they do, they smoke something very mild. Whereas somebody else,
like a Connecticut,
like perhaps like a Connecticut, or somebody else that maybe smokes Maduros or Oscuros and more stout and strong cigars would find this just too light for their taste and put it down and walk away.
Right.
So everybody is different. It's important that I think for the new smoker out there, when they pick up a cigar, to read about the cigar that they're smoking, learn about the different countries they're from, the different strains, and that'll help you to discover what it is that you like. So for me, somebody that really didn't know anything about cigars when they first started smoking like anybody else, I found now that Nicaraguan Corojo is my niche. That's what I really love. That's my go-to. Is what I smoke every day? No, because I enjoy all the different varieties. But that's the one that I particularly found to be my favorite.
Gotcha. And you can actually enjoy a drink with your cigar here at the castle, can't you?
Oh, okay. Yeah, so we have 50 beers on tap. We have a wide variety of scotch, whiskey, bourbon, port wines, mixed drinks, cocktails. I personally like to go with an espresso, no sugar, no cream. Whereas I know that you've enjoyed, on a couple of occasions, Joe, some cafe con leche.
Okay. We're going to take a walk in the humidor and talk more about the cigar selection in just a little bit. But I wanted to talk about the atmosphere. Correct me if I'm wrong, but this place is known for a certain type of atmosphere. How would you describe the atmosphere in the Cigar Castle to viewers watching at home?
I would describe it in general as a laid back, a great place to come and relax and smoke and socialize and meet different people from all walks of life. Maybe speak to the owner a little bit. Atul, he's nothing short of a gentleman. I've had some very interesting conversations here at the castle. A lot of interesting people, characters, good laughs. Just a great place to come, relax, socialize if you like, and catch some ball games on the television. Especially on Sunday, we got the DirecTV NFL package. We have 8 televisions, a different football game on every TV.
Great. Okay. So Oscar Valerdes is who makes the Oscar Habano, which we're smoking, and that country of origin, you said, is Honduras?
Honduras is where the cigar factory is located, yes.
Okay. And then what is it, an Ecuadorian Habano wrapper?
That's correct. So a lot of manufacturers, probably it's fair to say most if not all, will shop for tobacco in the market. grown from different regions, different strains of tobacco from different countries, different regions within those countries. And tobacco being a commodity, just like any other commodity, is sold by the unit, in tobacco's case by the pound. Some tobaccos are more expensive than others. That's why some cigars are more expensive than others. Does it necessarily mean they're better? Well, in my experience, not necessarily, but tobacco is priced like anything else, on its supply and then its demand, right? So that dictates price.
Another cigar we wanted to feature is my personal favorite, the Arturo Fuente 858 Cameroon. I'm partial to a good Fuente myself. Anthony, you actually know about the pretty interesting background of the name of this cigar and how it came to be. Why don't you share that with us?
I'll be happy to, Joe, and I'm going to grab 4 of the Arturo Fuente 858s right here. And the 858, interestingly enough, is a palindrome. And the palindrome was put there by Don Carlos Fuente, who was the patriarch of the Fuente Cigar Company. And when his dad passed away, he passed away at the age of 85, and he wanted it to be a tribute to his dad, so he put the age of 85 on the cigar so that you could read it in both directions, from right to left or left to right. So that's pretty interesting. And I have here, at 85. And Don Carlos himself just passed away actually last year, right around this time, I think in October, at the age of 82. And I think his younger son had taken over from the company from his dad quite a while ago, a few years ago, and he continues on with the tradition today.
And you can actually catch them in Ybor City every once in a while, can't you? The Fuente family.
That's right. You know, they have a cigar shop over there in Ybor.
Yeah.
Right by not too far from the train tracks that run through there.
Right.
So if you're ever out that way, stop in.
Yeah.
Grab yourself a Angel's Share Opus X, which is a Fuente y Fuente, which was blended by the father and son about 22 years ago now.
I've had one Opus X. It's very good.
And then they have the sun-grown version of that, which is the Angel's Envy or Angel's Share. You grab yourself one of those if you haven't had it yet. It's really a special cigar.
I bet.
And so I just wanted to demonstrate for you, Joe, a few different wrappers here. I don't know if you're able to see that on the camera at home, but we have a Candela here. We have a Maduro, a sun-grown, and a Cameroon.
Okay. And the flavor to that is, depending on the wrapper, of course, for the Cameroon, it would be kind of smooth to medium body.
That's correct. Smooth, medium body, and a Cameroon for me has always given me sort of a dry finish on the retrohale, almost like a red wine, like a dry red wine. Right. Cameroon lends the same sort of dry finish on the exhale.
Okay. And then I just wanted to touch on the Canones, which is another one I like to smoke, which is basically an extended length version of the same blend, because interestingly enough, this blend is actually used on 9 other cigars in the Fuente line. Is that correct?
That's right, Joe. And they have the 858. That's their Toro size. The Cañones is more of their Longtail, and then they have other names for other sizes. Okay. So it's still the same blend of tobacco. And there's no surprise that you like the Cañones. It's the same way that you like the 858, since it's basically the same cigar.
Okay, that's what I thought. Now I wanted to move on to the Gomez Sanchez family line, which I don't know too much about. That's why I wanted to ask you. I do know they're Cuban-esque cigars, and you were telling me basically the closest thing to a Cuban that you can find at Cigar Castle.
Yeah, absolutely, Joe. And this
hold that up for the camera?
Absolutely. I'm going to show you at home. I get a lot of people that come into the Cigar Castle and ask me for a Cuban cigar, but of course, since there's an embargo, a lot of people have this misconception that the embargo's been lifted because Obama went over there and they seem to be getting on well, but that's not the case. The only thing that really changed is that you can travel abroad and bring back any amount of money worth of Cuban alcohol or tobacco, whereas it had been limited to $100 worth previously. So that's all that's changed. But luckily for us here in the United States, since we can't get Cuban cigars, we have something that's very Cuban-esque. So here we have the Gomez Sanchez. It's a company that was started in 1934 in Cuba by this gentleman. And his grandchildren have left Cuba now with the seeds. And Julio Gomez Sanchez, the grandson, explored all the different countries where they grow tobacco, and he wanted to find a soil that would produce most like the Cuban soil, and he found it in Nicaragua and San Andreas, Mexico. So that's where they grow their tobacco today. They have a full lineup of cigars, a very nice range. They have a Sumatra, which is known as a Tostadores. It retails for $8.99. It's a great introduction into the line, good starting point. And they have the Palacios, Connecticut. It's very offbeat for a Connecticut, very different from any other Connecticut that I've smoked. Probably my favorite Connecticut. That has a price point of about $11.49.
One thing I did hear is this was they use a Cuban seed. Is that correct?
That's correct. A lot of manufacturers do that. Okay. But it's, I guess, moreover, you know, more than just the seed, it's the Cuban tradition. And it's the triple fermentation method that they use. From what I understand, it's a proprietary method. They don't even allow their employees to know how they triple ferment the tobacco, or in the way in which they do it. In particular, only the family is allowed to go in the vault where they do that. Okay. And a Cuban roller rolls with love. It's their passion. And the construction in a Cuban cigar is unlike any other countries, unless in the other country they're rolling in the Cuban tradition. So that's really what I love about these cigars, is a good quality tobacco, and well made and well processed and done with love.
Well, wealth of information. That's the Gomez Sanchez line, family line. And you know what, Anthony, you've been great. I think that's all the questions I have for you.
Right,
I really appreciate you being on the show.
Thank you. It's been an honor.
Anthony Lamantia, everyone.
Thank you.
All right, Anthony. Well, here we are in the humidor here at Cigar Castle. I just wanted to have a walk through and kind of have you show us around and tell us a little bit about the different selection you have here.
Oh, okay, Joe. Thank you. Ordinarily, we don't smoke cigars in the humidor, but this is a one-off special occasion. We'll get away with it. So as we come through the humidor, and it's an extensive humidor, maybe you want to pan around there and just take a look at all the different open boxes we have, more than anyone else in Tampa. Over 1,200 open boxes here at the Cigar Castle, located in Temple Terrace, 56th Street and Fowler Avenue. So we have all different sorts of brands, from big manufacturers to the smaller boutiques. And if we just kind of walk through, I'll go over some of those cigars. You can see the Drew Estate Undercrown. They have a Connecticut Broadleaf in Natural and Maduro. You can see some of the other Drew Estate with collaboration with Rocky Patel. They have the different flavored cigars. They have cherry, Maduro, latte, mint. Those are for people that enjoy those sort of flavored cigars. In this case here, Joe, in front of you,
why don't you get a shot of that?
We have some of the more special cigars by Fuente, the Lost City, the Opus X. You can see we have Cohiba in here. We have some Diamond Crown, M. Bombay, and M. Bombay makes one of my favorite cigars. This is a Connecticut, Ecuadorian Connecticut, very smooth, creamy cigar with a little bit of spice. Retails for $16.99. It's a great special occasion smoke. We'll just go down and around. We're not going to go through every cigar in the humidor, but we'll just hit upon some of the different ones and some of my favorites.
Have some of the basic acids over here.
Yep, this is some more flavored cigars. This is actually the flavored cigar section here in the castle. You'll find it on your right-hand side after making a right into the humidor. On the back wall here, we have some of your everyday Fuente smokes, from Sun-Grown to Cameroon to Maduro. You'll find some of the everyday smokes here on the Curly Head, the Curly Deluxes. We have Curly Maduro as well. We have the Don Carlos. That's a special blend that the owner made.
It's a good cigar.
We have a recent one that came out at the trade show in Las Vegas. This is not a Fuente, but an Eric Espinoza Reggae Dread. And this cigar is worth mentioning, as I haven't gotten to smoke it yet, just got it in the other day, but it has the little dreadlocks for the the head of the cigar, which is pretty neat, pretty different. Okay, so we'll just come and walk around. We have Perdomo at the end cap here.
Had a lot of Perdomos. Good cigar.
Great cigar. We have Esteban Carrera, CAOs, LFDs. On this side over here on my right we have the Garcias, my father line, Christoph.
Glorious Cubana. Very good.
Yes, I'm glad you mentioned that, Joe, because these are some of the recent La Gloria Cubanas, right?
Okay.
And they've been made now for 8 years by a company that took over for Ernesto Perez Carrillo, sold the company. And you can see here, if you can zoom in on this, you'll see this is a 2006 box of La Gloria Cubana when EPC had it, or Ernesto Perez Carrillo. And we have the Sumatra in Maduro and the Sumatra Natural. These are all Italian-made humidors as well. If you wanted to purchase one of these from the castle, you can get one for between $2 and $2.50, depending on its condition. You'll speak with the owner about the price.
Right.
We have a full lineup of Rocky Patel, Monte Cristo, Romeo y Julieta, Macanudo. These are some of the larger manufacturers, and then we'll get into some of the boutiques. So some of the boutique cigars that I really love is going to be the Caldwells. The Caldwells are down the end over here. Right in here, see some of the other Gomez, Sanchez that we spoke about earlier. And we have a collaboration that Drew Estate did with Caldwell called the All Out Kings. That's a pretty fantastic cigar. Then we have the La Aurora. They come in these tubes. They're preferidos. They're done in the classic Cuban roll. This little cigar here is about $20.
Very nice color to the case, though.
Yeah, and this one in particular is called the Ruby. It's their Maduro, and well worth the price of admission. Nothing I could afford to smoke every day, but once in a while it's a great treat. I like to have something like that around a holiday or a birthday or some other special occasion with friends.
Right. Okay, and you have some very nice display cases here.
So these are two companies, Camacho and Avo, that were purchased by Davidoff. So we have the full lineup in the case of the Camachos. We have their Ecuadorian Habano, their Carrillo, their Connecticut, their Corojo, their bourbon barrel aged, their rum barrel aged, the Power Band that they came out with recently, I think at the end of last year, the Triple Maduro, which is a double binded with wrapper. That's why it's a Triple Maduro, all 3 leaves of Maduro, and the Liberty series, of course. Avo, another terrific cigar. I particularly like, and I'll mention the Avo XO, especially for the new smoker, more on the mild side, 100% Dominican. Has the sweetness of dehydrated fruit with a little bit of a caramel note in the background. Really a fantastic cigar.
I want to try that one.
Yeah, I think you're going to want to try this one. Joe, I've tried it multiple occasions. And I also love their Nicaraguan blend, which is the Avo Synchro. And it comes in the tubes as well for the golfers out there that want to keep their cigars well protected in the box press as well. That's a terrific cigar.
Great.
Over here, Joe, we have a Pio. This is a rather strong cigar, but 100% Nicaraguan again, and one of my favorites.
Yeah.
Also happens to be my first son's middle name.
What's that?
Pio.
Oh,
P-I-O.
okay.
I think they refer to the cigar as P-I-O, but I tried it for the very first time just because it said Pio on it, like my son's middle name, and I was pleasantly surprised.
And what is that, about an hour, hour and a half smoke?
That one, something like this, because of the girth of it, I'm going to say it could be anywhere from an hour and 20 minutes to an hour and 45 minutes.
Right.
Because when we smoke a cigar properly, you smoke it slowly. And let me just go over that real quick for the viewers. Okay, and that's going to be, when you take a draw on your cigar, it should be slow, and it doesn't need to be extremely hard, and it shouldn't really be successive draws or where you're heating up the cigar. Remember how I say it should be cool enough to hold, right, on the burn line. So just a Now there I let the smoke fall out of my nostrils. Most of our sense of taste is in our sense of smell, and when you retrohale, which is exhaling through the nostril, you'll get more of a flavor of the cigar than you could otherwise. But the important thing to do is to let it fall out of your nostrils. It's not a cigarette. We're not inhaling it, and we're not blowing it forcefully through our nose. If we do, it's going to burn. So I'll warn you about that, and it does take some getting used to. So on this side, Joe, we have the La Polina. That's another fantastic cigar, and we see here Oscar. Oscar also makes the leaf.
Yeah, why don't you get a close-up of the Oscar? This is the one we actually smoked on the episode right here. Great aqua color to the inside of the box there.
And the Oscar also makes a leaf, and you can see their trademark here. The cigar is wrapped in a whole tobacco leaf. Just another way of differentiating themselves on the shelf. Great marketing tool. Caught my eye immediately when I first started smoking cigars. I want to mention drones. The drones are a little bit more expensive, but there is no other cigar in the market that is as well made so consistently.
And a lot of my friends who smoke cigars, because I smoke cigars pretty often, they all rave about the Padrones. They love the Padrones. And I've never really heard, you know, too much of a bad thing about them. Everyone seems to really like them.
Absolutely not overrated.
Right.
Also, we have in this case a really fantastic cigar, another 100% Nicaraguan. How about that? Guess who's partial to Nicaraguan cigars, right? This is a collaboration between Casa Magna and Casada, and it's a fantastic smoke. I bought 2 boxes of these myself. Also in here we have the crown jewel of Drew Estate, which is the Liga Privada line, and they make a Habano, which is referred to as their T52. There's Scoro, which is a Connecticut Broadleaf, which is their number 9. They have the Dirty Rat, the Ratzilla, the Feral Flying Pig, which is a fantastic Maduro. Love that cigar. My favorite Lancero they make as well. It's the L40. That is almost the sweetness of like a pipe tobacco, I would describe it as. Really wonderful. Has to be tried. If you're a cigar smoker, you'll want to smoke that at least once, if not twice.
And that's pretty much it for the humidor here at Cigar Castle. And then right when you enter here on the left, you have some Rocky Patels if you want to just get a nice Rocky Patel, the Edge quick smoke. I grab these from time to time. It's a good smoke for the price point.
That's right, Joe. That's a good value cigar. That's Honduran tobacco. They come in a few different varieties. They have the Habano, the Sumatra. They have a natural sun-grown down here, as well as the Maduro.
All right. Well, thank you again, Anthony.
Joe, thank you. It was an honor and a pleasure to be with you today.
I appreciate it.
Very good, man.
Anthony Lamantia.
So Joe and I have been doing a lot of chatting here today during this episode, and when we do that, sometimes we forget to take a little draw on our cigar every once in a while, and then it can end up going out. And that's just exactly what happens to Joe and I. So I thought this would be a good opportunity to demonstrate how to relight a cigar properly. So what I did with mine, and I haven't done it with Joe's yet, is you just kind of hit the cigar, but you're not trying to light it. You're just getting it ready to receive the light from the cedar wood. Now, cigars are stored in cedar, so when you light your cigar with cedar, you're not introducing a new flavor profile. I won't even use a match, given the choice. So we just go ahead and Joe, let me keep this going for you. Looks like we're going to go out. Actually, going to stay straight up. And you're well lit again. Now, why do we use a cedar stick instead of just a lighter to relight? Well, when the cigar has already been lit, it has burnt tobacco on the foot of the cigar, and we have to get behind that with the flame. we don't want to do it with something as hot as a torch lighter like this, a jet lighter. So we light that cedar stick and we have a nice soft flame that we can inhale into the cigar, again at a lower temperature. So we're not scorching the tobacco. We have the pleasant taste of cedar. Our cigars are well lit. And Joe, let's mention this. They were a little spicy out the box, weren't they?
Yeah.
And now what are they? Sweet.
Yeah.
They've really sweetened up and they're staying sweet now, and they will.
Calm down, very smooth.
And I know that because past experience. This particular cigar, okay, we came into our humidor about 2.5 months ago. And this is my 7th one. I guarantee you, I've smoked this cigar more often in the last 2.5 months than I have any other. It's my favorite Habano.
And it's the first time for me, and it's great. I don't have anything bad to say about it. It's a really good smoke.
Thanks again for having me,
All right,
Joe.
thank you.